We finally have some good news, boys. Bethesda has once again gotten absolutely destroyed, humiliated, bamboozled, even dare I say, by none other than Steam and Valve. Now, granted, I don't think this is anything special. Bethesda is an expert at getting humiliated by literally everyone who is not even trying at this point, and well, they have kind of been living in a perpetual humiliation ritual for at least the past 15 to 20 years, give or take, depending on opinions. So, not saying that this is exactly a new thing for Bethesda, but honestly, it's probably the best thing that they can actually achieve, so people even remotely care about them.
The PC gaming landscape is ever changing, but one thing that has not changed is Steam's hold on the market, and that really has a lot to say about the competition, or really the lack of competition, because there's been opportunities, and there has been some contenders. GOG is a great example of that, but the ways that some of these other competitors like Epic Games have gone about it, it's really not about putting consumers first, but more so the
Epic Games, beautiful. What a disaster.
billion-dollar, publishers and such. And consumers,
I recently, and by recently I mean yesterday, saw a Epic Games chart that they managed to add something like 300 million users in the past 2 or 3 years or something like that, and they managed to grow their revenue, not actual pure marginless profits, but the revenue, the money that you get before every due is paid, by like 7% or something like that. Epic Games literally is just giving away free things and no one is caring. They're just they taught a whole generation how to just come inside their shop, get something for free, and then hopefully install it on Steam.
obviously rightfully have not gone to those platforms or ran to it except for when there's free offerings and such. But Steam still controls the market because of a lot of the pro-consumer decisions that we've talked extensively on the channel about. And one of which really has defined and changed the gaming industry over the last year or two is Steam now making it that publishers have to disclose which games use AI-generated content. This is something that a lot of publishers like Activision and Electronic Arts have gone out of their way to hide, but now they are having to speak up and at least admit that they're using generative AI for their experiences. This new rule has defined a lot of the conversation that we've seen in the PC gaming landscape, and developers, publishers have been confronted over the fact that they're using generative AI, and we've had responses that have just been trashed because of it. But transparency matters, and this is a pro-consumer decision.
Remember, I think again it was the Epic Games CEO who said Steam should be modern and not ask games to disclose if they're using AI or not, because everyone's gonna do it anyway at some point. And then you're wondering why no one likes you. No, seriously. And then these people wonder why no one likes them. It's amazing.
One of which was met to outrage by Epic Games, who again holds a competing store with the Epic Games Store. Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic Games, and he dismissed this rule. He explicitly said the AI tag is relevant to art exhibits for authorship disclosure and to digital content licensing marketplace.
No, this is different. This is not what I meant. Different take.
Where buyers need to understand the rights situation. It makes no sense for game stores where AI will be involved in nearly all future production.
Oh no, or was it?
This response was met to outrage from consumers, and we even actually had a Valve artist responding, countering, calling to scrap Steam AI disclosure, says it's a technology relying on cultural laundering, IP infringement, and slopification. And he actually responded further saying, this is like saying food products...
Someone at Microsoft popped the vein when someone at Steam referred to AI as slop, you know it.
Shouldn't have their ingredients list. Consumers should have the information to decide if they want to buy something or not depending on its content. The only people afraid of this are the ones that know their product is low effort.
Based,
that was
true,
a response
and real.
Coming from a Valve artist really going after Epic Games, and they are one of the big...
Good, look at this. Valve. They just do nothing and hire good people. Holy man, that's insane.
biggest detractors to a decision like this, but that is a feeling that I would assume a lot of the AAA publishers are feeling as well, because ultimately all of these publishers want consumers to get in line. They want to be normalized to behavior, but at the very least we have a platform like Steam that is still doing pro-consumer decisions and thinking for us, putting us in front. That's something that we don't see with a lot of these other platforms, not necessarily just in the PC gaming landscape. But Steam has made some other very interesting decisions as of late. Steam's new personalized release calendar fixes the "I didn't know that was coming out" problem, but this is a huge thing for indie games. Discoverability is a problem. It is a massive issue that a lot of indie games are having right now. You gotta understand there's about 20,000 new games that are released a year. You're only probably gonna know about a dozen or so. And that is something that the AAA games industry, that's by design. You gotta...
Well, if this patch proved one thing, you can make a game as bad as you want, but at least add some good gooning, and there you go. And if you do not know this, by the way, this is true. This patch went out. It hired voice actors, except Alana Pierce, who had literally multiple tens of millions subscribers on YouTube. They had Moist Critical, Jacksepticeye, and a bunch of other losers I have no idea about. And they sold like 50k copies when episode 1 and 2 released. And then episode 2 and 3 released, which had the romance choices, the gooning between Blood and Blazer, the objectively right choice, and this absolute waste of oxygen that betrays you, is a horrible human being, and should probably be put on death's row. And it just got popular from starting to trend on Twitter about because gooning. That's it. That's it. There's nothing else. It's that simple.
Understand, you have the single player experiences in the lead up to these games. You have millions upon millions of dollars being spent, so you know about that game. But there's also live service experiences that every single update there has to be millions upon millions of dollars. All of that steers attention away from the indie space or any other games out there. So yes, a lot of people in the indie space have problems with people at least just seeing their game or hearing about it, period. And that's why you see at all of these, events or such, why there's still thousands of dollars spent just for you to see whatever game it is. And it was specifically said here by Polygon that Steam's rolling out a new tool, this was just a couple months ago, to help users wade through the sea of endless new releases. The personal calendar will display a snapshot of games that have recently released and those coming in the near future. But here's the big thing, the kicker. According to Valve, the Steam personal calendar is filtered down to the set of games we think you most likely will be interested in. So it uses your library to get at least an understanding of the games that you're probably going to be in.
Yeah, I find this pretty bad, honestly. Steam does a good job, but their game suggestions... Listen, if there's some place where you probably want AI, it's honestly here in, what you want Steam to find for you. Because I'm gonna be real. Most of the time, I'm pretty disappointed with the options.
Interested in, maybe put some games that you know.
And AI is horrible slop, don't get me wrong. But AI probably would actually be able to, unironically, the modern day, AI like ChatGPT, would honestly be capable of figuring out what I actually want more if I just, add keywords to things. That would be, for once, useful.
Heard of in front of you, so, or at least know that they're coming about when they are. And I do think that is a huge decision. This is, again, one of those things. It maybe seem minor in the grand scheme of things, but at the very least, if it means that just people are able to see more games, that is a good thing, especially when it's not coming from the big AAA behemoths. But this is not what we're talking about today, because another big decision, another big rollout has happened, and it is version control. This is huge, and this is coming at the perfect time because Steam Workshop has been one of those things that a lot of the PC gaming landscape people have kind of scoffed at, because people look to other means like Nexus mods, ModDB as the answer for modding. But it does seem like Valve is starting.
And Nexus mods are run by a bunch of woke people. Nexus mods is horrible. They have done everything in their power to honestly just make themselves implode. If you make a mod that removes flags, that's evil. If you make a mod that adds flags, though, promoted. Okay, it's just so sad.
Starting to get serious about this, and this could be huge moving forward. Now, PC Gamer, they report Steam Workshop just got
Wait, though, how are we gonna get to the Bethesda humiliated part? I'm not gonna lie, I'm mostly here because of that, but this is a good prelude.
version control, hopefully making it less of a headache when game updates break all our mods. This has become a massive problem in this industry, especially with the explosion of interest in the modding scene with a variety of games. It's that you have X game that came out years ago, and then surprise, here's a random update, and it totally destroys the modding scene. And there are saves, hundreds of hours that have been poured into them that are mod dependent, and you're at the mercy of these mod authors and just hoping that they update it, and it's not always a given. And that's why there's been an irritation, especially with Steam Workshop, and now Valve is finally addressing this in a big way. Now, PC Gamer notes this example. They bring up that a major update just dropped of one of your favorite games, bringing exciting new features and much needed overhauls, but in the process it's busted all your beloved mods and all your saves that rely on them, forcing you and countless Steam Workshop commenters to wonder how soon mod authors will push updates of their own, and that is not always a given. Valve just launched new version control options for Steam Workshop, ideally making it much simpler for players to choose compatible mod and game versions. And this is the big kicker here though, assuming developers and mod creators have configured the necessary options. Valve is creating options, but they're putting the control in the developers, publishers, and mod authors, and it really is up to them to support this. And there really is no excuse, especially of these big high profile experiences moving forward. And if they don't, a lot of that you have to consider that there is nefarious means for why they're not choosing to support this. But it goes on to mention that Steam has already given the past developers the option to provide access to different game versions, either letting players install beta branches to playtest upcoming features or older versions for mod and save compatibility. But now, in a blog post, Valve announced new Steam APIs and workshop options that let game developers better define past game versions and allow workshop mod authors to specify compatibility of their mod versions with game versions. And it goes on to mention that for games where developers have allowed and properly configured access to past game versions, Steam Workshop mod authors can now upload multiple versions of the same mod, marking which game version each mod version is compatible with.
Ooh,
the Steamworks
big.
API will also let developers query whether a user's game version and mod versions match up and prompt the user when there's an incompatibility. That is huge. The Steamworks documentation says the new API feature...
Dude, I think mods are honestly still an untapped thing. There's a lot of people who know about mods. Most people, watching this video obviously know what mods are. They have probably used them in the past, but you need to understand, mods are still a super minority of the player base for even Bethesda games. Like, the average Fallout player has no idea what a mod is. The average Elder Scrolls enjoyer has no idea what a mod is. The reality is, mods are very popular, but they're still extremely niche. And if Steam starts pushing the workshop more and makes it the big modding thing, that's gonna probably be the big next boom. I honestly think modding in the past 2 years has already absolutely exploded in popularity. In big things to things like Fallout New London and, other things like that. But, well, actually, thanks to Bethesda's incompetence that every game they make needs to be saved by modders in some way. The Star Wars mod for Starfield is also a big thing. And, again, I think it's still untapped. I think there's going to be a huge boom, a huge resurgence of people, players, and fans and whatever, when modding truly takes off and it becomes mainstream. That's gonna be a big, big gold rush. And if Steam can be at the forefront of it, honestly, the better we probably are gonna end up being.
Can even let Steam close the game when there's a mod and game version mismatch, switch and install the appropriate game version and relaunch. This does, here's the big thing, this does of course require both developers and mod authors to do the required version management and configuration, which hopefully will become the status quo moving forward. And yes, this is the Steamworks page talking about it, and it says by default...
I can already see a bunch of developers being mad that they actually have to try and do work. Stupid Steam, trying to make players' experiences better. Well, we at Bethesda obviously do not care. Yeah, that seems about right.
default, users who subscribe to a Steam Workshop item will download the latest version of that item. Any subsequent updates to the item will also be propagated to all current subscribers. And then with the release of 1.6 of the Steamworks SDK, content creators can now specify that a specific version of their item is valid for a Steam beta branch. And it mentions that the version control for complex mods, an example is a game where some players have dozens or hundreds of hours of game progression, and a certain version of the game that works with a certain set of mods in this scenario, automatically updating the game may break some of the players' installed mods and corrupt their save game. And there has been a variety of examples of this. You now have the option to call a Steam API telling Steam to switch the player to a specific branch of the game if you detect that a recent update has broken compatibility with their mods, and that is huge. And another user, I think, perfectly explained this, really simplifying how this is all working. What happens is, say if you're playing 1.12 of a game, you have your 100 mods and are happy. The game updates to 1.3, hey, that's cool, but the mods haven't been
I thought it lagged because the gameplay at the end froze.
updated to 1.13 yet, and if you have 100 mods, there's a good chance you're like, I want to keep playing 1.12 until my mods are updated for 1.13. You roll back to 1.12, your mods all work day 0, but you have 100 mods by 50 plus different mod authors all updating at different paces. 25 of them update to 1.13 and no longer work with 1.12. 75 of them are stuck on 1.1.
Honestly, Steam just giving the players a chance to understand what mods don't work in general, even without nothing else, is already a huge quality of life upgrade. Because the reality is most mod users are going to be like, well, you're supposed to manage your mods on your own, which is true, but it is something that does make people go away from modding, not try it, because, you know, it's complicated, this doesn't work, you're supposed to fit, and it's a lot of hustle. It is a lot of hustle. I know. The people who use mods are going to say that's not true. And yeah, I agree. It's not true when you get used to it. But for someone who has not done this, you know, all of this sounds fucking terrifying. And that's not going to change. So Valve doing the legwork also for you, not just telling you, hey, this just doesn't work, is huge. Because honestly, Valve is just skipping a step here. And it's the fact that Bethesda has literally pretty much been given lifeblood because mods exist. And they have never done anything to help modders, only made their life worse. And now Valve is not just making a step forward, but skipping a step, or honestly a few even, depending on how you look at this. And this is huge. But Bethesda should be ashamed of themselves.
So you're in a scenario where you can't use all 100 mods and finish.
If Bethesda ever got ashamed of itself, it probably would melt, because there would be countless shame.
Finish your save or whatever. With this, you'll be able to tell the mod, please keep me on the 1.12 version. I don't want to update to 1.13 until all my mods are updated. You play old version with the old version of your mods, finish at your leisure, and then come back when all the mods are updated and start a new save with all 1.13 stuff instead of an incompatible mishmash. And the thing is, in the past, how it has worked on Steam is you can go back to a prior version, but the mods would still update, and it would be incompatible. You couldn't play it. You'd just be forced to really upgrade and go to the new version and just wait and hope that mod authors would catch up. And that does mean that some of these older, beloved mods, they're a thing of the past. You can never see them unless there's a Nexus mod downgrader and such, and that is the case with a game like Fallout 4, but that isn't always the case. And this headline specifically, this is the problem that the industry faces right now, and it's that the gaming industry just loves releasing patches and updates that totally break the experience, and this totally disrupts the modding scenes of these games. And Paradox apologized for...
That's actually wild, by the way, that Stellaris has a bunch of mods. Stellaris has so many mods, in fact. It is wild. Well, Stellaris is a great game, ruined by Paradox, but it's a great game, for the most part. I don't know what's happening now. The last time I heard about Stellaris was, I don't know, a year ago or something like that? And, well, there were issues. Let's just say there were issues, okay?
disappointing Stellaris 4.0 update commits to fixes, and for a lot of players it was totally unplayable. And this has been a common theme for years. Cities Skylines 2 devs warn unfinished editor could result in broken mods. We had Snail Games apologizing for Arc Aquatica DLC as update breaks the survival game, and some people have theorized that they did this, introducing this update years later for a game that's extremely popular for nefarious reasons because they want people to stop playing Survival Evolved and make the jump to Survival
Yeah, we have covered it. I think that's 100% true.
Ascended. One user specifically saying, I wonder if it's
if you can't compete with something that is being made good and that has quality, your best bet is just to, well, destroy it or make it equally as shit as your own thing. So that's why a lot of companies do this. That's why literally every single big Fallout mod that has been released, Bethesda just magically out of nowhere has some kind of update that breaks it right before release. It has happened every single time in Fallout.
Intentional to drive more traffic to ASA. No money to be made in actually supporting Ark Survival Evolved in any meaningful way at this point. Game's official support is dead, so killing off virtually all of the mods would inevitably drive some people to finally move to ASA. And it's not like this is one, single game that people have theorized this about. You can look to what's going on with Fallout 4 and its 10th anniversary update, which totally broke the experience, and the only thing it added was Creation
nothing.
Club content. And you can understand why the modding community was so fucking pissed about this. And Bethesda, their follow-up was announcing a roadmap of bug fixes that were going to be coming to Fallout 4. The problem is that some of these bug fixes have been delayed to early 2026, and here we are in the early part, and there's no sense of idea when this is coming. So at least now, hopefully you get an understanding of the anger that is in the air when you have a developer coming out of the middle of nowhere with an update that a lot in the modding communities just view as unnecessary. And they are unfortunately forced to upgrade, and especially with Bethesda, they have a reputation for launching broken patches, and that is played out right now with Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition. And unfortunately, right now, players are at the mercy of Bethesda because they have to wait for more updates to come about, and modders have to upgrade with each new edition, and it's just a massive headache. And the thing is, it's not like, Bethesda does not support Steam Workshop. Steam is now giving the options, but Bethesda they have to actually support, and that hopefully will be something that they think about moving forward, and other developers as well. Because Bethesda right now, they don't even have beta branches, and this is something that has been met to anger. Why won't Bethesda put up a beta of the old version when they update the game? Seriously, it would fix so many people's problems with the game. Want to play with mods, play the old version. Want to play the update, just do. And the thing is, the only other means is right now to use something like Fallout 4 Downgrader. At least in Fallout 4's case, the current process is a bunch of extra steps, but it doesn't have to be this way. Not anymore. And this is a thing that played out extensively last year when Fallout London came about. This is something the developers they were extremely worried if they were going to be able to launch the game, but they had.
Anyway, I just want to point out, honestly, how absolutely unbelievably stupid is the concept of Diamond City being like the main city, the main hub of commerce, people living, everything in the area, and you need to fucking buzz in and get someone to lift up the barricade so you can enter. No wonder Fallout is stuck in place and the setting doesn't move, because this is unbelievably stupid.
Last year when Fallout London came about. This is something the developers they were extremely worried if they were going to be able to launch the game, but they had to create a downgrade Fallout 4 to save their massive mod. The game's next-gen update threatened to upend years of the DLC's sized mod. They had to really rethink things because Bethesda, again, came out of the middle of nowhere with the next-gen update. Obviously, at the very least, that
as they suspiciously, as I said previously, always do. It's almost like, no, Bethesda wouldn't be trying to sabotage anyone else because they're incompetent. No, surely not.
had improvements and upgrades, but it totally ruined the work that they had. And this is something that the massive Fallout community had to deal with, not just Fallout London, but so many other projects. And this has been something that has been striking the modding community for so long. But fortunately, it does seem like Steam is finally giving some answers, and at the very least, it does put pressure on these developers and publishers to opt in and support this moving forward. And that will be key. But as some people have said, that unlike Nexus, Steam Workshop doesn't massively throttle downloads and introduce artificial gates and requirements to downloading. You can just click subscribe to collection instead of wasting an afternoon downloading hundreds of mods individually. Bethesda games being on Steam Workshop would save players a lot of time and effort that's unnecessary being spent on those delays.
B Bethesda workers, C post about Bethesda bad, Steam good. Get mad, make Bethesda worse. That's probably kind of how this dance goes, honestly.
But Bethesda would only bother if they could profit from it by selling the mod, so it's unlikely proper workshop support will ever be added. And I really hope that is not true. But at the very least, Steam is giving an answer here. And it is a deliberate choice by these publishers, by these developers, to not opt in. And it does need to be mentioned, though. Like, even Fallout 4 Downgrader, there's a bunch of other steps, as that user brings up, and there's all kinds of other mods and stuff. It is a headache. It is a headache. But Steam is making things easier. And at the very least, a variety of other games will be impacted positively moving forward. Because I brought up some of the other examples with Stellaris, City Skylines 2, but there's also RimWorld, there's Cyberpunk, and
yeah. What's happening with RimWorld modding? Never played that game, but it is really, really good and fun. I have seen people like do challenges and things like that, and very cool, honestly. Anyway, that was a Legacy Killer HD 10 out of 10. Bye.